So today I'm going to give you an overview of who we are, a little bit of history of where we came from, and our philosophy. I'll give you a high-level overview of what went into the development of the tools and materials and the model that we teach, the client experience, and a little bit about what specifically differentiates our training, our materials, our model from a handful of other organizations out there that also provide some training around life planning. And then I'm going to also give you a little bit of a sneak peek of what it looks like to have access to all the materials in our website, kind of show you around a little bit and talk about the steps of coming on board with Money Quotient. So how we work with advisors, what you could expect at the training, what happens after the training, and hopefully this will answer a lot of the questions maybe you came with. So be sure to drop any additional questions in the chat window. We will send a follow-up email with more specific information about prices, although it is in part of what I'm going to share. We'll send a follow-up document so you can have those that you can refer back to. Okay, so we'll start with where we came from, our Money Quotient roots. As suggested by Simon Sinek, always start with why, right? So here's a little bit of our story. The pictures that you see on the screen are the adult, although she looks like a teenager, is Carol Anderson, and she's the founder of Money Quotient. She's also my mother. So she's sitting next to me on the swing, and then there's a picture of myself and my brother, who's 5 years older than me. His name is Mike. But right around this time was the first seed that was planted in my mother's brain that became the life's work that turned into Money Quotient. So there were three pivotal points really that shaped the direction that she went with her life's work. And it started with my father leaving our family with my brother and I being very young. And one of the things that my mother realized was she had a real lack of knowledge when it came to personal finance. She needed to learn a lot very quickly to take care of my brother and I and her small family. But she quickly learned also that she was not alone, but that the people who didn't have the financial knowledge didn't necessarily fit the stereotypes that she would assume. So it wasn't just the preschool teachers like my mom who didn't have the financial education, but she was shocked to learn also that highly educated people like doctors and lawyers also often did not understand what was going on in their financial lives. So this was a real shocker to her. The third pivotal point, when she started becoming a big advocate for financial literacy, thinking that that was going to solve everybody's problems, then she uncovered the research that shows that there is actually little to no statistical correlation between getting that education and people actually adopting the financial strategies or changing their financial behaviors. And this is true even of the people who sought out the financial education for themselves. So a lot of times, this financial education is not a requirement in our schools, but even those who sought out the education for themselves showed little to no change in their behavior afterwards. So this was a big shocker that really launched her fascination and interest with what is the missing point. If financial education is not helping people to change their behaviors, then what would actually motivate them to do so? So this launched her research. She went back to school, got her master's degree, and had a full focus on this particular area of interest. Long story short, over, let's see, I guess that would be 4 decades she has been pursuing this interest. She eventually acquired enough materials that she created, educational programs and things, that she decided Money Quotient was the organization that she should start and provide some of this knowledge that she had collected, some of the information, the materials, all of this she should be providing to financial professionals, because they are uniquely positioned to not only provide financial education, but also talk to clients about their lives and engage the emotional brain, which is part of what builds the motivation to actually take action. So Money Quotient was founded in 2001. I'm going to read to you our mission statement. A little helpful tip here, just to potentially apply to the work that you do with your clients. If you can involve as many senses in a learning experience, the person learning is more likely to absorb and retain that information and then apply it later. So although there are a lot of people that say that you should never read your slides to your audience, there is actually a reason that sometimes it's important to do. So you're going to see the words and you're going to hear them from my voice. Okay, the mission of Money Quotient is to facilitate the exploration and implementation of a values-based, life-centered approach to financial planning. We believe this holistic process engages individuals and empowers them to maximize their resources and live meaningful and purposeful lives. To this end, we conduct innovative research, provide the highest quality tools and training, and nurture a community of like-minded professionals who truly want to affect positive change in the lives of those they serve. This has been our mission for many, many years. We have, for 19 years out of the 22 years of running Money Quotient, we have always operated as a nonprofit organization, surprisingly enough. But in 2022, we actually broke into two sister organizations because we continue to grow and expand on our offering to financial planning firms in terms of actual consulting and coaching. How do you implement these things into your practice? And the more we went down that road, the more we realized we needed to separate our endeavors here into two sister organizations. So you are here watching a webinar with Money Quotient Inc. I am the president now, helping to run all of the training, consulting. I teach the model that was developed based on the research that Carol pulled together from various disciplines. We have an entire library of practice management resources that firms can use as well. And we also have education, continued education that we provide to help you improve on your skills to get as much success out of your client relationships as possible. Our nonprofit organization really focuses on research. So we have collaborations with various universities. Ongoing research is happening all the time. And we also provide materials to students who are going through financial planning programs to allow them to use them in their student-led clinics and learn how to have these conversations as well. We do have plans in the future to be able to provide a platform for pro bono activity. That is something that we are in the process of developing. And we also have educational opportunities coming out of our nonprofit side as well, which we call Money Quotient University. So this is not specifically focused on the model that we've developed, those educational opportunities from our nonprofit side, but more of looking at the practical and the emotional elements involved in having successful financial life. Financial well-being. What are all the things involved? And also looking towards the future of how the profession is going to evolve, what's going to become more and more important in the future. So you are all welcome to take a look at any of the educational opportunities from our nonprofit side. Anybody is welcome to register and participate in those. And then our for-profit is really focused specifically on the model that we've designed. Okay, So we're going to get more specific into that model here coming up. So I mentioned Simon Sinek, start with why. This concept makes it pretty easy for me to explain on a high level what Money Quotient focuses on and how we bring in the elements that help to make the planner-client relationship more successful, help them to adopt and actually follow through on the financial strategies and get better results in those client relationships. So in the TED Talk that Simon Sinek had called Start With Why, highly recommend. Most people have seen it, but watch it 50 times and you'll get something new out of it every time. He talks about a communication dynamic, a model that he observed over many years that he found is a pretty natural way for people to communicate with each other. And so the circle on the left here is the communication model that he kind of came up with from observing people, and talked about how I'll use a financial planner as an example. When trying to convince somebody to take action, perhaps you're trying to convince them to work with you. Oftentimes, you'll start to explain what you do. So a financial planner might say, we help people with retirement planning, insurance, investment management, taxes, and whatever the services are that you provide. This would satisfy the what part of this communication dynamic. If that person is actually interested in hearing more, then they might ask, how do you do all these things with your clients? And that advisor might go into talking about the various analysis that they do, the research, the programs they use to run various scenarios, and how it all pulls together to comprehensive recommendations that they make. But rarely does the conversation go into the why piece. And also Simon talks about how the why, well, actually, he doesn't talk about it in his TED Talk, but if you've seen him talk beyond that TED Talk, he shares too that this why is often misunderstood. I think a lot of people would say, you know, why I do what I do? Well, I like to help people. I came into this profession because I like to help people. I want to make an impact in their lives. I want to see them be successful. But really, those are the outcomes of your work. And the why piece is really about your own personal story and the various transitions and experiences that you've had in your life that eventually made you passionate about the work that you do. So the why piece is your own personal story and is unique to each individual. So Simon talks about how if you take a slice of your brain, that these different components of the communication model line up with the different areas of your brain. So the neocortex, the analytical part of our brain, understands language. So it's going to logically understand the words you're using when you explain the services you provide. So the what coordinates with that analytical brain, but the neocortex is not responsible for building motivation to take change or to make change or making any sort of decision about moving forward and making change itself. The limbic brain, our emotional, creative brain, which would relate to the story that you provide, is actually the part of our brain that builds motivation, that feels a sense of urgency to take action, and is the part that makes the decision to adopt any strategies or move forward. So what we're focused here on Money Quotient is how can you bring in that missing piece, whether you're educating your clients, providing them financial education, or you're trying to help motivate them to take action and implement your steps. How do you bring in that emotional component to have more forward movement on the other end? So here is the equation that Carol came up with that actually started the organization Money Quotient. This is the philosophy that launched our organization. So the MQ in this equation is a measurement of an individual's overall sense of financial well-being. And that's made up of two very important components. The EQ, which comes first in the equation, is the emotional quotient. And that's it's a measurement of an individual's awareness of how their emotions affect their decisions and their ability to, in a sense, control that or take that into consideration. It's not what I like to make this point, because a lot of what we see in behavioral finance is trying to understand human behavior so that we can manipulate the situation and get them to do what we think is best for them. But what this is actually representing is the clients themselves being aware of how their emotions affect their decisions and actually taking that into consideration when choosing the financial strategies that are going to work for them. So the emotional component is what builds that motivation to move forward and makes those decisions, which is why it is first in the equation. The IQ is their level of financial knowledge. So how much do they actually understand and know about their personal finances? How confident are they in understanding and making decisions in their finances? These two components are crucially important to raise a person's level of financial well-being. So we've been really focused on bringing this EQ part in and having it integrate with the IQ piece that you have all been taught to provide. So an overarching concept here is that each human, including yourself, views each situation through two lenses. The emotional lens usually comes from a gut feeling, and really a lot of that resides in your subconscious brain. So you may hear people say, I'm not going to go with that decision because it just doesn't feel right. This is definitely an indication that they're leaning a lot on the emotional part in order to make this decision. So we have our emotional lens, and we also have our rational lens, where we are looking at all the facts and data, evaluating the situation, and that informs our decision as well. We like to think our rational brain is very objective, but actually it's also quite subjective because of what you have probably all heard as confirmation bias, meaning we're only going to focus on the facts and the data that seem to align with what we already believe, and we're going to ignore the facts and the data that seem to conflict with what we believe. I know that we see this all over the political world, have for several years now. There's a whole lot of confirmation bias going on for sure. But it's where these two lenses overlap, that is that individual's reality. And it is from where they make all their decisions. It's their frame of reference. It's all very subjective, but it is where people make those decisions. So we're trying to help financial professionals get in touch with their clients' frame of reference, their reality, as quickly and as efficiently as possible, because that is definitely going to affect the way that you communicate with that client, specifically how you deliver the recommendations so that it fits with their perspective. They can understand, they'll be more willing to adopt and move forward with those strategies. So when we're bringing life conversations into our financial meetings with our clients, suddenly all the numbers, the things that our neocortex understand, suddenly all those numbers have a lot more relevance and meaning when we bring the life conversations into it. Okay, so a financial life planning process, I'm going to give you just kind of a high level understanding of the practical timeline that you go through with a client when bringing in these life planning conversations. It all starts with first helping the client to explore their own core values and what motivates them in life. We're really tapping into the emotional brain by just exploring a little bit about their history. What has built your passions? What has built the aspirations that you have? What is important to you and what gives you a sense of drive? So we're exploring those values and motivations. They become a key component when we help them develop a vision of an ideal life that they want to live. That vision then boils down to some very specific goals. And because you started with those values and motivations, these goals that they end up with are very compelling. They're excited about it. And now they want to know from you, what do I need to do financially to put these things in place? So you're now providing all the components to your client to have a decision-making framework. They now have clarity around their values, which frankly, most people do not have clarity around those things. They have clarity around the vision that they want to pursue and the specific goals they're excited about. And you've provided financial strategies that help them see how they're going to get from where they are now to this vision. And so it provides this decision-making framework where on a daily basis, they're going to understand, is this going to bring me closer to that vision, or is it going to bring me further away? So this decision-making framework can be a very valuable gift to your clients in working with you. Part of your value proposition. So not only does it sound logical and cool, it also has scientific proof now of its effectiveness. So this was a study that Carol was involved in with several professors of different universities. It was something that was sponsored by the CFP board and the Financial Planning Association. They wanted to look into how do these financial life planning exercises, various activities, these sorts of things, how do they affect the planner-client relationship in a lot of different ways? And this was conducted in 2007. The white paper came out in 2008. I'm happy to send the white paper out as a PDF to anybody who's equally as much of a nerd as my mother is and likes to get into the statistics. I'm happy to share all of that with you. In fact, we'll just go ahead and include it in the follow-up email. But very high level results of this research. Those advisors who had implemented very specific exercises and conversations with their clients around those elements I just shared with you, and the clients who agreed that their advisors had these conversations with them, there were 2 to 4 times higher statistical correlation to the client feeling complete trust and commitment to that advisor, that they said they weren't ever planning to leave the advisor because of that trust. So the retention was 2 to 4 times stronger. They were completely satisfied with the services that they were provided by that advisor. They fully followed through on all recommendations, meaning they actually implemented all the strategies. And they felt very willing to share more financial information and personal information with that advisor after going through some of those conversations. And the last thing here was they more regularly referred friends and family to that advisor when they had those elements as a part of their process. So that was pretty awesome. We have new research around this too. We've repeated it, this research, because we wanted to take a look at how various global events, such as the pandemic, how that may have affected a planner-client relationship. So the perspectives of the client of their relationship with their planner. Very, very interesting findings, but this is not for this discussion today. I am on the speaking circuit, however, so if you see me coming to a conference near you, I will likely be talking about the latest research as well. Okay, so I'm going to delve into more specifically what the money quotient model looks like. So this is a multidisciplinary approach. I kind of shared, there's certainly some psychology, behavioral finance that we used as a lens to develop, but there's also biology and neurology and sociology and adult development, principles of adult learning. All these various disciplines, we took research and theories and concepts and use them as lenses when trying to develop a model that was going to help you to be as successful as possible with your client. So there is a lot of the psychological dynamics at play in the relationship between the planner and the client that have been taken into consideration when we've developed any of the tools, resources, and conversations that you would have in this model. So I'm going to give you a quick rundown of the 5 stages of this process. And then show you more specifically some of the topics that you would talk about with your clients in this model. So the explore stage is basically like the prospect stage of your process. It is when it starts when that client first contacts you. It includes a getting acquainted meeting. The type of data gathering that the advisor is doing during this stage is very broad, but not very deep. So you're trying to understand high level what the client situation is, and also kind of determine the scope of engagement, as well as whether it will be a good fit for this client will be a good fit for your firm. Once the client has decided and the firm has decided to move forward in a working relationship, then we enter into the engage stage, which is essentially like discovery meeting number 1. And the purpose of this meeting is to totally define point A. Where are they today? So this involves exploring a little bit of their history to understand what developed their values, what developed their perspective, what developed their preferences, while you're also collecting more financial information. So once you've established point A, they have a clear picture of their values. Then we move into the envision stage. This is discovery meeting number 2, where they're going to define point B. Where do I want to go from here? Now that I really know where I am now, where do I want to go from here? And this is you guiding them in designing a life that's going to be fulfilling and exciting and compelling. This is the part that really builds the motivation then to take immediate action in the financial strategies. So once they've developed that vision and you've boiled it down to specific goals, you move into the enlighten stage, which is when you're delivering your recommendations or a draft of your recommendations. It's very important that this stage starts with the advisor sharing the qualitative information that they've learned about their clients. So this would be a summary. We actually have a deliverable that you create that says, here's what I've learned about your values. Here's what I've learned about your vision, about your goals, about your concerns, all the qualitative information. Have I heard you correctly? Am I missing anything? Because this is what I'm basing my recommendations on. So there literally is a way for you to link the qualitative information you've learned directly to financial strategies that you're going to give. And that link is crucially important for them to actually feel motivated to follow through. You might feel like it's an obvious connection, but actually drawing the specific link and making it visual increases the likelihood of follow through on that. So the enlightened stage is all about nailing down the specifics on that financial plan. And then the empower stage is when you are supporting them in that implementation. So your job is not over yet. The client often needs a little bit of guidance in implementation and also unexpected obstacles that come along the way. How can you help them to build resilience to stay on the path when unexpected things occur as well? So we talk a lot about that during our training. We did design our stages of our process to align with the CFP process. So you can see our explore stage aligns with the establishing and defining that client relationship. We've really done a lot of work to make the gathering client data and establishing goals to be very effective, because this is such a critical time in building that motivation in the client. Our enlightened stage aligns with analyzing, developing, and presenting the plan. And then empowering has to do with implementing and monitoring that part of it moving forward. So I think one of the big differentiators of Money Quotient is that we do have this practical process that makes it really easy for advisors at any stage of their career to be able to implement and lean on this framework in order to have these conversations and add value to their client relationships. So what's on the screen right now is what we call a client meeting schedule. And basically it lays out our recommendations for which of the Money Quotient tools to use in which meeting and how to sequence them as well, because we're guiding the client's thoughts to more clarity around various things. So these are kind of like recipes. We have the recipe for success, and we often recommend that you just follow the recipe as you're learning and getting used to the materials. Once you are very familiar with the tools and materials, then advisors tend to feel a bit more confident in being able to use materials in an impromptu sort of way. But if you're able to follow the recipe that we've created, you will get to specific outcomes. And these are the outcomes that our process will help you to get to. One, a higher level of awareness. Now, this is most beneficial for the client themselves. So their awareness of their own beliefs and attitudes around money that is affecting their decision, that awareness allows them to take that into consideration and make other choices. So if their money management habits have not helped them reach their goals in their past, they can make decisions on their own to change those behaviors. And it removes you from a position of having to be like a parent, really trying to force them into new behaviors. So that's a huge benefit and outcome of this process. Others that we have talked about several times already is that clarity around the values, motivations, the vision and goals that really gives them direction and motivation. And then with all of those pieces, plus the financial strategies, they've got that decision-making framework that really helps them to feel confident and empowered in moving forward. So now what I'm going to go into is I'm going to share with you within this framework, there are 4 topic areas. We call them inquiry categories that are important to discuss with your clients in order to get to these outcomes. And I'm just going to share with you a little bit about each of those 4 topic areas and why they're so important. I'll share an example of a tool in our library that helps provide a framework for conversation around that topic area. So the first one is satisfaction and values, and the link between the two. So satisfaction is clearly highly subjective and is defined by each individual's definition of success. So an example might be you might have 2 clients who have the same income level. They both make $200,000 a year. One of those clients might feel like they're living a great life. They are really happy with their family life. They feel like they have everything they need, and they're not worried about money. And then you might have another client with that very same income level that feels really insecure, feels like they're behind, they're scared and afraid about their future. So clearly what this shows you is that satisfaction is far more of an emotional issue than a practical one. The number itself is not going to tell you whether that person feels confident about their financial situation or fearful about their financial situation. Also, an individual's values are what fuel their sense of life satisfaction and are unique to all. So values are going to be what influence them on, what they'll be willing to spend their time, their money, and their energy on. These are our limited resources: time, money, and energy. If those happen to not be aligned with those values, if they're spending their money or they're spending their time on things that aren't important to them, that's when they tend to feel a sense of dissatisfaction with life. We've all heard stories of incredibly wealthy people who are very unhappy. This often is a reflection of them maybe spending time and money on things that really aren't aligned with their core values. So, and one of the exercises that we have that help you to have a conversation about this with your clients, this one is called Personal Insights About Life Balance. It's super fun. It starts with the beginning of a statement, and the client simply fills in a word or a phrase that completes that statement. These are super quick to complete, and they're meant to start their thinking about what's really important to them in life. And it provides you a really easy framework to have some discussion and learn about them, learn about what brings them happiness, what they like to spend their time on. Okay, so that was one category. Another inquiry category is biography. And the reason why it's important to learn a little bit about that individual's past is because their past experiences influence everything in their lives. And mostly our experiences when we're in our childhood, they will influence your beliefs and your behavior. So our conscious and our unconscious, our subconscious influences how we make our decisions and our behaviors. Our past also develops what we become fearful of and what we're concerned of. If any of you have ever had a client who was a child through the Depression and watched how their parents struggled through, a lot of those individuals end up with a very scarce mindset, a scarcity mindset, and they become very fearful, even if they have plenty of money to survive on. So our past experiences develop what our current fears and concerns are. They also develop what we find most important, what our priorities are, what our passions and our dreams are, what our goals are. Often those past experiences influence all of those things. So here's a fun exercise called Money Memories that allows individuals and couples to think about their past and how those experiences may have affected the way they see the world today and the way that they want to make decisions today. It can be actually an enjoyable and fun experience for couples to go through together. We do have an advisor. Well, we have several advisors who would say this, but one in particular who's loves the Money Memories exercise, goes through it with all of his clients, makes the claim that it has saved several marriages, because the more that they understand how their perspectives were formed, the easier it is for them to feel compassion for one another and look for solutions that would help to satisfy both individuals in that couple. Transitions is another topic area. This is super important because change is constantly occurring in our lives. We can't stop it from happening, but we can often do a better job of proactively planning, building resilience to move through that transition. Interestingly, what research shows us is that transition is actually more of a psychological shift than it is a practical or a tangible one. So really understanding what is actually happening in our brains can help us to support our clients in making smooth life transitions and not make any crazy irrational decisions while they're moving through those life transitions. Every life transition really does take both practical strategies and emotional fortitude. So how can we help our clients have more emotional fortitude when they are approaching unexpected transitions in their lives? Personal Insights About Change is an example of a tool that we have that helps the advisor with the client kind of explore what changes have they gone through in the past and what has helped them to make those changes. There's a lot we can learn from our past experiences that we can actually pull to our current changes that we're making in our lives and use it to move through that transition more smoothly. So were there relationships that helped support you? Were there resources that you used that helped you to move through this transition? How can we proactively plan for the transitions that you have coming up in your future? So this can help to build resilience, emotional resilience, as well as practical resilience for the client. The fourth category is around goals. This is really interesting because advisors typically launch into goal setting conversations with clients without really realizing that a lot of people don't like to do goal setting. So there's a lot of people who have negative feelings about goal setting, and there could be a million reasons why, right? They may have attempted to reach some goals in the past and failed so many times that they just hate goal setting. Or maybe many of you have experienced this yourselves, because it's pretty common in our industry that goals were oppressed upon them in some sort of employment arrangement that they have, like maybe sales goals were pressed upon them. So now they have a real negative feeling about goal setting happening. Or maybe they have a real low self-efficacy, meaning they don't really believe that they are smart enough. I'm not capable enough to be reaching these goals. So they have a low self-esteem and a low self-efficacy. Regardless, there are a million reasons why people might not like goal setting. So what is important that advisors think about doing is actually reframing goal setting for them so that they see it in a different light. As a partner, a guide, and an educator, you can help them to adopt a fresh perspective of goal setting and change the process for them so they can more fully engage. So here's an example of one method that we teach as a way of reframing goal setting for clients. On the left side of the screen, you can see this SMART acronym. This is crazy how many people know this SMART acronym. I've done trainings in several other countries. I did a training in Brazil. I did a training in the Netherlands, in Australia. Everywhere I go, they all know the SMART acronym. Even if they don't speak English, they know this SMART acronym. It blows my mind. But if you look at it, we've been taught, right, that goals need to be specific. They need to be measurable. They need to be attainable, realistic, tangible. How boring and uncreative is that? How uninspiring is that? So when we talk to our clients, we want them to understand what we're looking for are goals that are significant to you, that they're meaningful, that you actually feel attracted to that goal. And that maybe we can find ways to make each step of the process rewarding. Getting closer and closer to that goal could be fun. We also want to talk to our clients about the timeliness of this goal. Will this goal interfere with other things in our lives? How can we make room for this goal in our lives so that it doesn't become overwhelming or burdensome on us? So although the SMART goals on the left side do still play a role, it's kind of more like the little steps in between, the little tasks to reaching the bigger vision is more of what the left side of the screen is. And what we really want the client to focus on is the SMART goals that are on the right side of the screen. So we have the Wheel of Life, which is the first exercise in a sequence of 4 exercises that helps them to really develop a strong and vivid vision of an ideal life that they feel very compelled to work towards. So this allows them to mark their level of satisfaction in all these different areas of life and begin to think about and talk about what would help to raise their level of satisfaction in each of these areas. You would be surprised, or maybe you wouldn't be surprised, but making improvements in any area of a person's life often has some kind of financial implication. Even if it just ends up being a line item on their cash flow plan, there usually is some sort of financial tether that goes along with any modifications or changes that a person wants to make in their life. So this is kind of the beginning of the journey to help them figure that out. So those are the 4 categories in our process. Clearly, we teach a lot of tips and strategies about how to talk about those different areas with your clients and how to get the most out of it during our training. I want to share with you really kind of what differentiates the Money Quotient training and process from maybe other organizations that you might be considering. And then I will share with you what it looks like to come on board with Money Quotient. So let me click through all these things. I think one of our biggest differentiators is the fact that we are research and evidence-based. So not only did we pull research from all these different areas to design the materials, but also we have tested the effectiveness of the process as well. So both research and evidence-based. We are really the only organization that provides a full practical process that an advisor really at any stage of their career can lean on in order to add value to their client relationships. They can clearly always be continuing to improve on their active listening skills and their facilitation skills, but this really can help any advisor add value and get more success with their clients, even if they're a terrible communicator. This will still be great for them to utilize. It does even though you're using the same tools with each client and providing that framework, the answers to those questions, the vision they come up with, the goals they come up with are all going to be unique. So we're not driving the clients to any sort of pre-selected diagnosis, like you only have these goals to choose from, but rather the results of going through the process are going to end up being very unique and customized for each person. And I do believe as well that we are one of the only organizations too that has as much ongoing support and education as we do. With our monthly webinars, we have additional advanced courses, and we have an annual event every year where we bring our community together. So this last one, nurturing a community of like-minded professionals, if you were to poll our community, they would say that this is probably one of their biggest benefits, is being able to talk with and be around people who are like-minded, and they can talk about their client experiences and all of that. So that seems to be a real benefit that they enjoy. So that is the slides I have for you, and I'm going to give you a bit of a sneak peek. Let me do a little quick time check here. So Jim, just to make sure, you can see the website right now, right?
I can.
Okay, great. Whew. Okay, I have a lot to go through in a very short period of time. If I happen to run over by a few minutes and you can't stick on, just remember that we're sending the recording out to you so you can look at the last part of it. You can hear my answers to the questions if you need to pop off before I've finished going through this. But I want to give you just a quick glimpse of what an account looks like for an advisor. I'm just going to focus right now on the materials directory. There's also discussion forums. There's an education archive where you can find tons of recorded educational sessions on demand on various topics as well. So there's a lot to explore in here, but I wanted to share with you the materials directory and how it's organized. So in this column you see here, there are different ways that the materials are organized. This is by the 5 stages of the process. So if you're looking for materials in your prospect stage, you might click on stage number 1, which will, oh boy, hold on. I think I've been out of the account for so long. Yes, I need to re-log in. Okay, when you click on stage 1, then it will open up this second column that gives you all the materials you'll need for a prospect communication. So here are a bunch of different types of tools you could use with that prospect. There's some practice management resources. You can see there's like email templates and meeting agendas. We have guides for the advisor as well that walk you through how to conduct that meeting. We even have value proposition documents. So how are you going to explain to a client what your value proposition is and how you work with clients? So we've got some of these already put together. You can pull that language and put it right on your website. If you click on any one of these tools, it's going to open up a third column that shows you a preview of the tool. This is actually what the PDF would look like, but we do have all the tools in submittable format. So you grab your own unique URL, you send it to a client, they open it up, and here's what it looks like. You can brand all the materials by uploading your own logo. So they will appear up here. Your logo will appear up here. The client completes the exercise. They hit the submit button. You're notified that they've completed the material or the tool, and that completed form will show up on this dashboard up here, client submissions. So super, super easy. Even our email templates have the place where you can put in any of the links to the tools that are needed for the following meeting. So those are kind of built in to the email templates as well. You can see with each tool, we provide a short video that reminds you about the purpose of the tool, gives you some tips for navigating that conversation. The complete tool guide is going to be everything you need to know. How do you introduce this to a client? It gives you scripts. It even gives you additional questions to ask the client to draw out more information. How do you wrap up that conversation? What are the psychological aspects at play that you need to be aware of and remember at that stage of the process? These tool guides are going to have everything you need to know to help you feel confident in running that meeting. And then these are all related resources as well. So there's some recorded webinars. There's some, as you can see, again, agendas, introductions, various things that have to do with this one particular tool. So this section is laid out how you would onboard a new client. We also have this section here that is common situations for ongoing clients. So we have our recommendations for what you should be taking your client through, all of your clients through on an annual basis. If you want to do a deeper dive in retirement planning, there's a sequence of tools for that. When addressing any life transition on the horizon, how do we help them proactively plan for that? If you see or observe conflict between spouses, there's recommendations there, or maybe they're overspending or afraid to spend their money. So there's all these different scenarios too that we provide guidance for how you can talk through some of those situations, provide exercises to help those clients go through that. And then there's a whole library of practice management resources. There's a lot of additional modules that are all included in our platinum level, but many of them can also be added to our lower levels. Anyway, the whole point is to show you the breadth of the library here and how much guidance we provide in helping you to implement those things. I'm going to share with you now the steps for coming on board with Money Quotient, what that looks like. And I'll blow this up a little bit, but basically there's kind of 5 steps going on here. Right now, you're in this first step of learning about Money Quotient. We do require having a getting acquainted meeting. We like to make sure that we do a good job of setting expectations so that you can get the most out of our program. And then the second step is attending our fundamentals training. You then choose a partnership level that you want to come on board with. We help you to implement all the materials you now have access through with this implementation program. And then after that, we just have ongoing education via webinars and online courses. So I'm going to go into the details of each of those now. Wanted to give you that high level overview for any of you who have to pop off pretty soon. But I will zoom in and give you more information about each of these steps. So you can always stay connected with us via social media and through the educational opportunities on our nonprofit side. So if you decide you don't want to become a Money Quotient partner and use our process, you can still take advantage of some of our educational offerings through our nonprofit side. Also, if you want me to come speak at your chapter, FPA chapter or NAPFA chapter, or any local things that you're involved in, I am happy to do that. So you can reach out to me directly if you're interested in having me come to your area for the speaking opportunities. You likely sent an inquiry through our website already. So if you are interested in setting up the getting acquainted meeting with me so I can learn more about your firm and your team, and maybe even how you've set up your client experience thus far, and I can share with you what it might look like to implement the materials, you can reach out to Rob at moneyquotient.com, and he will help you to set that meeting up on my calendar. And there's a couple of real quick surveys that you can go through and complete that will provide a framework for our conversation during that meeting. I'll explain, I'll answer any questions that you might have about the training and the licensing materials. There is also a sampler package available if you want to have access to some of the materials, test them out, see what that's like before committing to coming to a training. We do have an option for having access to a small number of tools, a little bit of training around them. You can use them for up to 3 months, but we have an expiration date of 3 months. And we don't allow anybody to remain at the sampler stage. It's really just meant to be a demo. So there's a small fee that goes along with that, $150 to kind of set up the account, provide that education piece, and then $50 a month for those 3 months. So that's an opportunity. You could also ask Rob at moneyquotient.com if you're interested in that. Our fundamentals training is really the main, this is a required training for any advisor who wants to use the Money Quotient materials. And we have 2 options for this. Either you can come to an in-person training with me in Portland, Oregon, or we also do hosted trainings in other locations. So if you're interested in hosting a training, I could come to you. But the in-person training is 3 full days. If it's here in Portland, it's $2,400. Or we do 5 half days virtually. We usually start that on a Wednesday. It goes Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We have the weekend as a break, and then we finish up on Monday and Tuesday. It's the same material. It's just 2 delivery methods and a little bit less for the virtual training. You can always come back and do the training again. In fact, we frequently have people come back after 2 or 3 years after they went through it the first time, because they want to, they may have implemented a certain amount of things, but they want a refresher on everything. And they have found a lot of value in doing that a second time through. So alumni pricing is 35% off. You will personally go through the whole process yourself as if you were a client. So you learn like, oh, this is what it's like to uncover my core values. And this is how I use those values when I develop a vision and goals. We also have you facilitate a process for another person in the training, so you understand what it's like to be the advisor and develop that qualitative deliverable for your partner. How do I learn all this stuff about my partner, and how do I deliver that back to them? So you'll be exposed to the whole suite of materials, which will help you to make a decision in terms of what partnership level would be best for you and your clients and your firm. There's a little bit of pre-work that we send out in advance, some articles to read, some short little videos to help you prepare for that training. There is 24 CE credits. So if you are a CFP and you're looking for CE, there's quite a bit that comes with this. Often people will submit this, the certificate that we send out, and they're able to get CE from other credentials that they have as well. But we do the submission for the CFP. You do need to be present for the entire training in order to receive those CE credits and in order to be eligible to come on board as a Money Quotient partner. So we highly encourage you to clear your schedules so that you can be fully present for the training. Afterwards, we send out a certificate of completion. We submit those CE for everybody. If you want to discuss like what might be best for you and your team in terms of a partnership level, I'm happy to have that conversation with you afterwards too. Because the next step is deciding, do I want silver, gold, or platinum? So this is the differences in the cost for that. We do have a document that we will include in the follow-up email that lays specifically out what your library of tools and resources, training and consulting, all of that is for each of those levels. But it's going to make a whole lot more sense to you when you see the whole library and the process during the training. For those firms that have more than one advisor, we have kind of a tiered sort of fee structure. So it kind of works like technology. When you add a user, we will add to the monthly fee, but then it's discounted for the more users that you have at your firm. This would be just the people who are actually going to be using the materials with a client and navigating those conversations. It wouldn't be support staff. They wouldn't be needed to be included on this, although it can be very helpful for support staff to take the fundamentals training. When they fully understand the approach of the firm, they have an easier time talking with clients about it. If there's somebody who answers the phone or something like that, it can be helpful for the whole team to be on board with what the approach is going to be. We do have a 1-year commitment. After that, it can go month to month. If you decide in the future you would prefer to cancel your membership or your partnership with us, then we just ask for, there's a 30-day notice on that. But there's a 1-year commitment to those agreements. And then, so once you've decided on a level, then you enter into the implementation program. So fundamentals gives you this high level understanding of how the whole thing works. You get to experience it yourself, but now we're working with you to actually integrate it into your practice and become more familiar with the library. And also we teach you additional communication techniques, some facilitation techniques. So there is an additional fee for this course, but we spread the fee over the 12 months because you do have that 1-year commitment. So our default is to just spread the fee over the 12-month period. And again, there are discounts for more advisors going through the program. This implementation program is also a requirement because this is where you get very familiar with the library, and we teach you additional facilitation skills. You practice using those. It builds your confidence in moving forward in your client meetings. We start with an orientation. We give you a tour of the website, make sure you know how to navigate and find everything you're looking for. And then there's an online curriculum that you follow. It's very easy to follow in small chunks. How we've divided it up is it will only take about 2 hours of your time per week. We tried to make this as easy as possible and also get you up and running with the materials as quickly as possible. So we take it a chunk at a time, and we start by taking a look at existing clients. So what can you implement immediately in your annual meetings with existing clients? And then we begin to help you develop your onboarding process with new clients as well. So it's all meant to build your knowledge, build your confidence, and build your skills. So about 2 hours a week for about a 3-month period, you'll be all up and running. You'll complete the fundamentals training and you'll complete the implementation course, have your entire process in place in a 4-month period with your email templates, your meeting agendas, everything you need. So as part of this program, we also have you in a small study team with other advisors who are learning as well. And those study teams are led by a Money Quotient veteran, so an advisor in our community who've been using the materials for many years. So they can share with you their own experiences. Here's how I've applied this in my practice. Here's how I'm talking to my clients about it. These are the sorts of reactions I'm getting from my clients. So you'll actually be able to ask practitioners who've been using the materials a while and get their advice on how to use them. And then, as I mentioned before, we are teaching some new facilitation skills. A lot of the facilitation skills that we teach are from a model called motivational interviewing. We take some very simple techniques, we demonstrate how to utilize them so you can see it in action, and then we give you the opportunity to practice using those facilitation skills as well. So you get better and better at doing this. Those communication workshops also have CE attached to them. So each individual workshop that you attend is worth 1.5 CE credits, and we submit those for people as well. Okay. So that's the end of the required parts of our program. So all the required parts of our program happen in the first 4 months. And then after that, everything is open to whatever you want to participate in. We have monthly webinars, we have courses. The webinars are all included in every partnership, so there are no additional costs for any of those webinars. Our advanced online courses do typically have an additional fee and quite a bit of CE credit that goes with them. And then you can always come and participate in our annual conference as well. Again, a great opportunity to be amongst others who have similar type processes and approaches too. So I think, I raced through that. But that's all I wanted to cover with you today. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and see if there are any questions. You are more than welcome to unmute yourself and ask a question if you'd like. And in the Getting Acquainted meetings too, we can also talk specifically about your practice and how this might fit in. Anything? There aren't any questions in the chat window. You probably already saw that, but Rob, maybe we should put Rob's email address in there, Jim, as well.
Yep,
So
we'll put that in the email follow up.
Great. Rob will help to set up any Getting Acquainted meetings or get some sampler packages going. So with that, I think we can wrap it up.
Yep, as I mentioned in the chat, I will send out a recording link so you can go back and watch any of this material again at a time that's convenient to you. There's an awful lot of material. We appreciate that you stuck around till the very end to check it all out. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out via email or phone. We'd be happy to give you any information that you need and get you any answers for any questions that you may have. Stay safe and take care, and we hope to see you very, very soon. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.